Welcome to PTI BetterGradesFast.com multimedia tutorials, and we're looking at descriptive writing today. And one major part of descriptive writing is using figurative language. Some of you may say, what is figurative language? We know the English language, we know French, we know Spanish, but what is figurative language? Well, all languages have a distinction between literal and figurative. What is the difference? Well, literal means exactly what the words say. It is specific. So, if I have to write a definition of what is literal language, it simply is words mean exactly what they imply. Okay, it's very specific. Very specific. Let me write it better. Let me give you an example. If I say Sigmund is a pig, that means exactly what I say. So I have a pig at home, 4 legs, called Sigmund. That's literal. It's my pet pig. Figurative language is different. And the purpose of using figurative language is to make things a little more vivid and real to readers. Figurative language changes the normal meaning of words. So, whenever you talk about figurative language, figures of speech, figurative, it simply is changes, it changes the normal meaning of words. So if I say figuratively, Sigmund is a pig, I'm no longer talking about an animal. I'm referring to a boy or young man called Sigmund who is sloppy. Maybe he looks all dirty, maybe he smells dirty, maybe he eats all unkempt, he doesn't take care of himself. And we can imagine that boy Sigmund being like a pig or being a pig. That's what figurative language does. And we often hear about figures of speech. That's what they do. They change the normal meanings of words so that we could imagine, that we could try to picture how someone or something looks. So today, I want to focus on figurative language and figures of speech. Okay? Now, you may have heard the term before, figures of speech. What do you think are some figures of speech? Well, I'll tell you. Let me clean this board and I'll write it down for you. Figures of speech refers to figurative language. And what I want to make a distinction with you today is the types of figures of speech that we have. We have some figures of speech that rely on sight and some that rely on sound. So, figures of speech changes the normal meanings of words. It's figurative language. And the purpose or point of figures of speech is to create pictures in your mind. So figures of speech creates pictures in your mind. And there are different ways to do it. We can do it by making something look like something else, or we can use sound, and when you hear that sound, you think of a picture. All right? When we use figures of speech and we create pictures in the mind, we call that imagery. Imagery simply is creating pictures in the mind. Now, let me write down some figures of speech that you may have heard or experienced. 1. Simile. 2. Metaphor. 3. Personification. They're all figures of speech, and they all try to create pictures in your mind. And how do they do that? Well, all three of them create pictures in your mind through comparisons. Comparison. So they all compare one thing to another. Similes compares one thing to another through using the words like or as to make that comparison. Okay? So let me write that out to you. Simile uses the words like or as to make that comparison. Let me give you an example. It's right here in your booklet that comes with this tutorial, and I have one here. She is as pretty as a flower. We are comparing a girl or a young lady to a flower using as in this case. Another example. He works hard like a horse. We are comparing how hard a guy works to that of a horse. We use like or as to make that comparison. It creates a picture in your mind. We can imagine the girl being very delicate, like a flower, or the guy being very strong, working like a horse, carrying heavy loads and so on. Now, a metaphor, unlike a simile, is a direct comparison. It doesn't use like or as. Remember, Sigmund is a pig. That's a metaphor. It's a direct comparison. I have some more here. That's a little more hard to grasp. He had muscles of steel. It's direct. I'm comparing the guy's muscle to steel. It's so hard. She had piercing eyes. Once again, a direct comparison. She looks at you, and the eyes are like daggers. It's like a knife. It cuts through you. She has those kinds of eyes. So we're comparing her eyes to some sharp object. That's a metaphor. Lots of songs use metaphors and so on. There's a song on the charts right now by David Guetta and Sia called Titanium. And in the song she says, you can shoot me down, but I am titanium. Titanium, as you know, is very hard metal. So if somebody argues at her, somebody insults her, you can try to shoot her down. Another metaphor. The words are like bullets, but she is protected. Titanium. Lots of music would use metaphors and similes. The last one, personification. It's a comparison, and here we compare something that is not alive, inanimate, to something alive or human. So, if I say, the trees stretched their arms to heaven. Trees are alive here, but they're not human. I have given trees human qualities. They're stretching their arms, which are the branches, to heaven. If I say, the river ran quickly to the sea. River, it's just water, it's not alive. But I make it appear to be human or alive, like an animal, running quickly to the sea. Or if I say, the sun smiled on the earth, I'm comparing the sun to a face, smiling on the earth. These are figures of speech, and they all use sight, how something looks being compared to another. Now, there are other types of figures of speech, and I want to cover those today. These exist through sound. Okay? And let me write them on the whiteboard for you. It's also in the workbook, so you'll be able to look at the workbook and see exactly what I'm teaching here there for you. So, in terms of sound, let me make sure the board is clean for you. In terms of sound, there are three that you may have heard about: alliteration, assonance, and onomatopoeia. Pretty big words. Let's write it down. 1. Alliteration. 2. Assonance. And 3. Oh no. Ma. Better. 2. Pia. No, that's wrong. Pia. Great. All right. What are these? These are figures of speech, but they operate through sound. Sound can create pictures in your mind as well. For instance, if I say bang or crunch, you can imagine an accident or something happening because the song creates a picture in your mind. And that is what these do. Alliteration is the repetition of the first sound in words. Okay, the first sound. So, let's take a look at some alliteration. This one you may know. She sells seashells by the seashore. It's a tongue twister. It's a tongue twister because the first sound is repeated. She sells seashells by the seashore. What sound is repeated there? We have the S and the SH sound. Now, what's the effect of that sound? She sells seashells by the seashore. That S and SH sound makes us think of the waves coming in on a beach. It creates a sound, and that's alliteration. The song creates a picture in your mind. Same thing with assonance. Assonance is the repetition of vowel sounds. In your workbook, I have a nice one here for you. Hear the mellow wedding bells, golden bells. What vowel sound is repeated there? The E sound. Once again, hear the mellow wedding bells, golden bells. That vowel E being combined with the L gives you L sound. Hear the mellow wedding bells, golden bells. So that bell song creates a sound in your mind. Bell, bell, it's a ringing song. So you can imagine a wedding taking place, bing bong, and you can imagine that sound. The song creates a picture in your mind by the repetition of those vowel sounds. That's assonance. Onomatopoeia, very simple, is having a song that imitates the action or word itself. So the sound imitates action. So when I say crack, bang, boom, kaboom, they're all onomatopoeia. The action of that crack and that bang and that pow and that smash is actually in the song, and you hear that song and you imagine how something looks. Okay? And they are figures of speech. That's what they do. They make language lifelike. Now, If you go back to that first page of your workbook, that story of Vietnam, the little girl called Puck, we have lots of figures of speech. Simile, metaphor, personification, alliteration, assonance, onomatopoeia. Go back to your workbook. Take a look at it. Underline all those figures of speech. Get used to it, because it's great for creating pictures in your mind, writing descriptively. Thank you for choosing PTI BetterGradesFast.com. See you soon.